Hey guys, it's Matt Hannum here and welcome to the Amplify Your Business podcast. So welcome to another episode of the podcast, and I'm joined today by Dino Pacella. So Dino is a nationally recognized BDM. He's a LinkedIn influencer approaching 30,000 connections. That's a big number. Yet most importantly, he's a family man with a partner and 2 children. He's also the founder of the National Finance Brokers Day in Australia and creator of Ubervation, a video series creating inspiration, education, and motivation. Dino, welcome.
Hi, Matt. How you going?
Really well. It's great to have you here on the show. And I'm really actually quite keen to dig into your story and go through a few things. So there's certainly a bit that I've been able to understand about you from conversations with people and a little bit online, but maybe we might see if we can get a little bit deeper as well and find out more about you.
Mate, dig away.
Well, why don't we start there then? So why don't you tell me something that maybe people that have come across you in a work sense or otherwise, something they might not know about you? What's something quirky that is of Dino?
That's a really interesting question, Matt, because I normally put everything out online. So I've broken that egotistical wall in front of me probably numerous years ago.
Yep.
So sharing something new is always an interesting question that I get asked. But if I can maybe go back, maybe to about 25 years ago now, I did almost become a professional soccer player over in Italy.
Okay.
So not a lot of people know about that. I was only 16 at the time, but I had the opportunity to go trial with a Inter Milan soccer club over in Italy for 3 months.
Yeah, wow.
Unfortunately, things didn't fall into place, I should say. So came back to Australia and really started a family from there and got married. So
okay, so you were living in Australia and you got an opportunity at Inter Milan.
Correct.
Wow, fantastic. And I assume hyper competitive and many people trying to get in that opportunity.
Yeah, we have in Australia, it's like the AFL over there. So they breathe, live, eat it. It's a religion over there. So it was a hell of an experience, learned so much. And, I still look back on that experience and I still pull things out of it to go, what can I actually implement into my own life now? So extremely grateful to how it actually eventuated, even though I didn't become a professional footballer, but you know what? It wasn't meant to be.
Quite powerful at 16. I mean, I might just dig into that. How was okay, you have to jump on a plane, you've just found out it's not to be. How does a 16-year-old fly back to Australia, talk to his family, talk to his friends and deal with that, which I assume is a crushing loss at the time for a 16-year-old?
Very silently you do it as a teenager back then. You come with your head tucked between your legs and you go, geez, am I good enough? Do I even want to continue playing the sport? And it's extremely crushing, I think, when you're doing anything or any opportunity that you're trying to tackle as a teenager. And I look at my teenage girls going through it now. And that's probably the highest accolade that I can actually take out of that is when something doesn't go their way, I can sort of relate to it and put myself back into that 16-year-old mentality and go, I can remember what that was like. It was a crushing blow, but you get through it. And I always say, Matt, time's your best friend because it never keeps you in the one spot forever.
It's really powerful, to be dealing with something like that at that age and to be drawing on it even now. It shows, I think, that the power of it. But fantastic. So let's dig in a little bit to the business side of things. So LinkedIn, I mean, nearly 30,000 odd connections up there. That is a big number. That's a very big number for most people to even comprehend. But, how did you get started in LinkedIn and I guess why? Yeah.
Originally, when I first joined my current employer now, which we're nearly up to 7 years on that in November.
Okay.
There was a colleague there that goes, have you heard of the LinkedIn platform? And then it was only out for a couple of years, so it was still fairly new. And I thought, well, no, I haven't. So I did some research on it. I thought this is a great place to showcase what my employer is doing, showcase my area of expertise, have an online resume, and potentially build for future career opportunities. And that's what I thought LinkedIn was. How very wrong I was. But I thought, I'll continue showcasing what I do. I'll put up awards that I've won. I'll put videos that I've done. And it was all about the me factor. And I thought that's exactly what LinkedIn was, that you showcase yourself, you showcase what business you can get, And you ideally try and get business opportunity or business leads through that platform. And let alone did I know that there are so many other avenues that I'm doing now that I've basically come across over the last 2 years, which is probably why the follower base has got to where it's gotten, because it didn't do it in the first 5 years, I should say, Matt. So that's how I got introduced to the platform. And I would say out of all social media platforms, I probably spend 90% of my time on LinkedIn.
Okay. So were you aggressive with LinkedIn early on, or is that you sort of mentioned there that it's only recently with other activities that it's really spiked? Like, were you always diligent in your approach and put a lot of time and effort into LinkedIn, or are you more or less doing what everyone else was sort of just doing?
Yeah, I was following the pack in the first 4 to 5 years, really, until I started branching out into that network. I was taking online relationships offline. I was talking to people in other countries to find out what they were doing. And until 2 years ago, my follower base was probably only around 17,000, 18,000. So that's over a 5-year period. And then the last 2 years, it's grown by another 6,000, 7,000 per year. And that's really because I'm taking the human-to-human approach. With LinkedIn, I'm not, I suppose, duplicating things that I'm putting on Facebook, but it's duplicated in a sense from a business value-add proposition. What can I leave somebody with? And we can talk a little bit later about ubervation, but that's sort of my purpose and why I use LinkedIn.
Super interesting. I mean, one of the things that I went cold on LinkedIn for probably 24 months. Not cold in that there's no opportunity there, but it just sort of lost a bit of its charm. You're mainly getting spammed. It goes through phases, as do all platforms. And that's why I was curious, because I'd wondered if you'd done that hard work early, because now with the feed, et cetera, the way it is, it's definitely flipped and come much more front of mind probably the last 12 to 18 months. I think it's really launched up. So I was curious to see whether you had a base and then all of a sudden the product changed and it really allowed you to skyrocket it, or if you'd done that thereafter. But because I think a lot of people don't understand that these things all change very fast, and even if you had a great Snapchat following right now, just sit tight. Something might happen, right? So you'd done the work beforehand, and how do you feel about where the platform's now taken you? Do you think that has helped you in the last sort of 24 months?
Oh, no doubt. I look at it now and I use a terminology that I came up with, Matt, probably about 6 months ago, and it's called about flipping the M in the me and concentrating on the we factor. And I continuously post about that. People are probably sick about it, but LinkedIn's gone that way now. It's all about that value add. It's all about that human-to-human element. It's those connections. It's building that community. And in business, people are going to reach out to people they either know, like, or trust. And if you can hit those 3 elements with building a strong personal brand across that platform, then you've probably done 80% of the work. The rest of it is just time and consistency. So I came to fruition. I came to know that over the last couple of years and worked hard on pushing through the barrier of that egotistical wall that we all put up online, because I was getting feedback that people hadn't known me, but I was getting third-party feedback going, Dino's a bit of a douchebag. Look what he's putting up. It's all about him. And I was going, I look back at it now and goddamn, they were right.
Yeah.
I was thinking, geez, I need to actually change the perception, because people's perception is your brand. It's not what I'm telling people. And it's going back to the good old days prior to social media. It's your brand. It was your reputation back then. Unfortunately, you had to do it face to face. But what you put out now is not only seen by your followers, but people are actually talking about it offline. So I'm really concentrating on that us factor, the we collaboration on that side of things, and really the egotistical wall. I just try and get a bit of a chisel and a hammer sometimes and break through a couple of bricks every week. And if I can let people see the real me, then this is how I do business. So when I get the opportunity to meet people face to face or do public presentations, then they can actually walk away from that going, you know what, I've actually been seeing that guy online. That's really who he is. I'm so glad I actually came to the event. I'm so glad I spent an hour of my time to talk to him, because it was authentic. It was real. There was nothing fake about him. And if I can do that online, then I can take that into my offline day-to-day role, into my side hobbies, if you want to call them that, then you know what? That's a huge success for me.
It just works, right? I mean, everyone talks about reputation, and they have done for many, many, many decades, centuries, yet I don't need a personal brand. and it is just the manifestation of the same thing. It's just that we have this digital leverage that we can send a quick message at 11:45 p.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever it looks like and still be achieving something, whereas we couldn't be networking with someone at that time traditionally. And that's the irony. Now, certainly you're in business development and the BDM, the sales world, I find it remarkable how little people or how very few people have an actual personal brand or put any effort into a personal brand when effectively their business, their micro business on who they work for demands it. Like that is the, I mean, you must see this all the time and be preaching it constantly in the finance space and otherwise. What do you think it is that stops people from, especially professionals in that space, and that is the 100% required goal and job and outcome? Like, why do they resist?
I think there's probably a few answers to that question, but the number one would be a safety net.
Yeah.
So people feel comfortable in what they're doing. And if we're talking about corporate employees, right, and you're talking about business development, which is actually going out proactively and seeking business for your employer, right? So it's a clear end goal on what you need to do. But I think a lot of these corporate employees are being fed from internal stakeholders or internal business partners. So they're finding those opportunities are keeping them either busy enough in that comfort zone that are thinking, why do I need to utilize social media to build my personal brand when I may be looking after a portfolio of 200, 300, 400 clients? That's keeping me busy enough. That's where I get 99.9% of my business. Do I need to invest an hour on social media every day?
Yeah.
And a lot of those corporate employees that I speak to even ask me, and I had a phone call yesterday going, why the hell do you spend so much time on LinkedIn to build a brand? You get paid a decent amount of money to do a job that, okay, doesn't run 9 to 5 in a BDM world, right? It runs 24/7, but you get paid decent income to look after a portfolio. Why do you need a personal brand out there? And the simple answer was, I want to assist people through education, motivation, inspiration through that sub-brand of ubervation. I've got a huge passion for the finance industry, hence National Finance Brokers Day, and which has got some huge support, and we can talk a little bit about that later if you like, Matt. But it's all about having a clear why, and it's no longer now just having a day job assisting people in that, as much as I love doing it, but I want to assist people in other industries. And I feel if I share my knowledge around sales tips or the finance industry or some motivational things that have helped me through life's challenges, if I can hit one person a day out of those 30,000 followers, and we know they're not all going to see every single post due to the algorithm, but if I can hit one person a day, then that is a huge success for me on the investment that I'm placing in on LinkedIn.
I feel like if people experienced the change that happens in your day-to-day business once you start to create a little bit of brand, personal brand, however the brand's coming to you, I guess they do experience it if they're working for a big company of sorts and their business just finds their way. Maybe they don't need to be that face, or they don't think they do. But I feel like if people experienced how it makes life maybe not easier as being the right word, but how opportunities just find their way to you, people refer to you, how, doing this work really does open all sorts of doors and create many more opportunities than it would by you working very, very hard in just pounding that pavement the way you do it. Everything becomes a little more effortless. And I'm sure you've experienced that yourself just in your specific role. I mean, what that does allow is it actually opens the door for that time, effort, thought, but it gives you the opportunity to help people more. It gives you that, it opens that door, and then you can spend more time on that, and you're still achieving your goals and outcomes that you were before, but probably even more so. I mean, is that something you've experienced?
Absolutely. It gives you you pick up other knowledge and other avenues, like the aspects of LinkedIn that I'm learning now. I can actually take that into my clients, and my clients that are actually building a LinkedIn profile and want to utilize it for lead generation. I can have a discussion that isn't just about finance. I can bring something else to the table that they can walk away from that no other BDM well, I'd like to say in the country, but that's probably big noting myself. But
I just say
I can actually sit down and it's not, let's just talk about your business and how you're traveling now. Can I add some value to business now that's actually going to increase your revenue income? And if I can do that by sharing a few of the things that I know on LinkedIn, and I do not know everything, but I like to know, I think I know a great deal, I should say, Matt, that I can leave people with something to take away that they can implement quite easily into their business, then again, that's huge, and that's around that value add piece.
And the thing about that is it makes you memorable. It's and that's what people aren't realizing. Like if you go and you spend the first meeting with someone, spending 30 or 40 minutes discussing LinkedIn because they've seen you there and they understand what you talk them through why and what's happening, and they're there for a finance deal or whatever that might look like. You're the only one out of the 3 to 4 people they've talked to or met with about that issue that is memorable because you've had a totally different conversation with them. But they then know and they have comfort that you can do the actual work that they came to you for. So you can spend those conversations in a different frame and be adding that value, as you say. But and it's over and above and well beyond what they even thought they were going to receive from you.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes a long way as well. As you mentioned before, it goes to opening those doors. But it goes to open doors outside of your own industry. And the numerous conversations I've had with people outside of my industry that we've just collaborated on something small or I've learned something new about a different industry where I can actually hold other conversations with people outside of my organization, which I probably wouldn't have done 5-6 years ago. But it also has provided opportunity to reach out to other key stakeholders to help promote things that are really important to me. And one of them being National Finance Brokers Day. So
yeah, do you want to talk us through that story and how that?
I mentioned it a couple of times, so why not? But that started about 3.5 years ago, and it all came about initially when I joined the third-party channel, so the broker industry, just under 5 years ago. It was all about I wanted to do research about this industry. I've worked in finance for 12 years prior, but it was all in the direct channel. So I wanted to learn a little bit about brokers, and a lot of the feedback I was Googling or Google was retrieving for me was really negative and it was really constructive about brokers. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? I left a comfy job to go into an industry which seems to be getting bagged left, right, and center. The further I invested time into finding out exactly what brokers do and what they bring to the market, the advantages outweigh that's a real superpower of a broker, right? Is all the advantages. And I won't go through it today because we probably all know that now. But I thought I wanted to showcase one day in the year that celebrates the industry, both for consumers and brokers, and just have a continual lead up via social media channels and share advantages, share something that's happening in the broker market, and putting things out there so people get a real understanding of what brokers do. So I was fortunate that I thought I needed a fantastic public figure to come on board and help me. And LinkedIn, as you do, I connected with Mark Burris, and after a couple of months of messaging, Mark responded. He goes, what are you looking at? I was in Sydney. I caught up with Mark, had a brief explanation. We did our first video interview back in 2016. And Mark's been supportive of the cause ever since. He's a huge advocate of brokers, just like I am. We probably have a silent competition who's more passionate about the broker industry. But it's really fruitioned into a great relationship that him and I have now because we both have an end goal. We both want to add that value to the industry, and it's fantastic having him on board because he's so well known in Australia, and we can hit that part of the consumer market to say, hey, have a listen. If you haven't used a broker, this may be why. So that's how it's come to fruition.
Yeah. So how do you start that day? Like what does that day look like? Okay, I'm going to start a National Brokers Day. I mean, talk me through that process.
First I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So I use the platform. I use LinkedIn and I'll put it out there. And I go, hey, I feel like this industry needs something, right? We do so well promoting ourselves within the industry. Fantastic. We can all give ourselves a pat on the back. But if we're wanting more consumers to use this channel and the reason behind it, how do we do it? And I had a number of people coming to me going, we could do this. Can I get involved? I had the two industry associations come to me then going, what a fantastic idea. How do we get involved? And it snowballed from there. And then Mark came on board. We've had another few other large broking companies come on board throughout the year. And this year actually was the first consumer-based event that we held over in Sydney on the 15th of August.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
So just to dig into that, you're clearly using LinkedIn. You've showed right there that there's a success story and how you've used it to create, a movement a day. But how do you? One of the questions I get asked all the time is how do you actually show or prove ROI for the effort that goes into this? So this question is sort of two-part. One, how much time do you spend on building your brand in this way? And two, how do you justify or how do you approach the ROI of that time?
Well, the first one, Matt, how much time do I spend on LinkedIn? It's interesting because I can go in settings and look under the battery usage. Absolutely. It's probably good to have actually a reminder on there going too much time. Yeah. But in all honesty, I'm an early riser, so I get up at 4 o'clock every morning, and I spend the first 2 hours on LinkedIn.
Okay,
so that's the start of my day.
Most important thing, knock it out for 2 hours.
Correct, and then it's coffee, walk with the partner around the park, and then it's come back, shower, and on the road to the BDM role. Mm-hmm. And then in the evening can range anywhere from an hour to 3 hours, depending on what's happening that night. If I'm had a busy day, running kids around, whatever life throws at me will determine the evening time span. So I would say the minimum is 3 hours a day.
And so that's minimum 3 hours a day, and that's 7 days a week?
Correct.
And you've done it for how many years, would you say, at that level?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. So that's a heavy time investment. It's not necessarily unwarranted. How do you flip that around, and how do you measure the ROI from that effort?
Well, given I don't need to monetize my value on that. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned, corporate employee, I get paid a salary for doing my day-to-day job, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is measured on the external requests that I get. Mm. So coming on your fantastic podcast, Matt, today is one. We talk about Get Amplified.
Sure.
Coming up on the 30th of October. So I'm fortunate enough to have been asked to participate and talk about exploding your personal brand using LinkedIn. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah, for those that want to jump in, www.getamplified.events. Go check out our event. We're coming up in Perth. Dino's speaking, and we'll throw a quick ask in the middle of this podcast, but there you go.
So there's other external requests. I've had numerous personal branding presentations, which they have been monetized because people actually go, you've got enough value. We don't want to ask you to give up your time for free. Mm-hmm. Where does that sit? So listen, I don't keep a spreadsheet. I don't detail my ROI off the usage of LinkedIn, but I know there's enough of that coming through the door. But probably more importantly than that, Matt, I get to meet some amazing people off the platform. And if you really get out of your comfort zone and go, it's not a MySpace like we had back in the mid-90s, Ryan. This is networking that can start online, and you can take something offline, meet somebody, do some real business with them, or at best, create a new friendship.
Yeah. Right? And target who you want to talk to.
Correct.
Find out all about them, understand what you're doing.
But I've now, over those last 2 years, I've tried to get rid of that original perception that we have of people when we first see them online. And we all do it. Particularly when we watch reality TV, you go, oh my God, why are we watching this? But I guarantee you, I've met a couple of people that have been on reality TV and they're chalk and cheese. Right? And I sit there and wonder, well, why are you chalk and cheese? Are you just purely for the camera? Is that what you've been advised to do? But I really give people the benefit of the doubt. So if people reach out and want to meet me for half an hour and grab a coffee, I'll always say yes, calendar permitting, because people need that perception of what I stand for, but I also want to give people the opportunity on what they stand for and really actually understand what people are out there for.
People really struggle with the approach of getting as much authentic content out there as possible, and they really do feel that they need to present their most formal business-like self when, in fact, the biggest deals get done in the complete opposite environment. And it's, I think that, like you say, because LinkedIn started that way. I mean, effectively, this was a resume site in a lot of ways where it started, and a lot of people haven't done the work to move beyond that. So it can be seen as that formal, but really the ability to engage and the community that can be built off there is where the value is. And I think that's the irony, and why that's so hard is because you can't ROI measure people and the impact of having one conversation. I mean, one of the big reasons why our podcast is, I'll often do this early in a relationship, because I'm like, I meet this person, do this, do that. Oh, great. Come and talk with me for 45 minutes, an hour, whatever it looks like. I'm going to find out about you. You're going to find out about me. We're going to figure this out at a much greater depth. And that's where you do all the digital framework to bring the person into the room, and then you have this conversation, or you have this cup of coffee, or whatever that looks like, as you say, and you build a relationship at depth, or a lot more depth at least, from the very superficial. Okay, we're both in our suit. Let's just quick talk, fine, go, see you later. And that's the typical meeting, I suppose. So, it's interesting.
It's great from that platform, as you mentioned, meeting people, but it doesn't need to be done during the weekdays. The amount of people that I've met over the course of a weekend, that can put the time aside to say, listen, I've been following you. Great. You know what? We're both busy with life. I'll say life, mate, because I don't encompass personal and corporate life as busy. I look at it holistically, right? So you need to balance everything.
Yep.
But if people go, why don't we meet on a Saturday at 9 o'clock? We'll grab a coffee.
Yeah. And see, that's my next question. So that leads in perfectly, because you're clearly employed by a corporate. How do they feel about it? How does I assume they're like, yeah, go for it, and then you probably got a bit bigger, and they're like, whoa, hang on, we don't control it. But how do you mold that in? Because I think the reason why I ask is because I think it's one of the biggest excuses people make is that, I'm employed by a corporate, they don't want me, they don't let me, I can't. You clearly have made it work. Like, what's that formula?
I think firstly, you need to know your boundaries. Okay. So, and understanding what you're talking about. I suppose every time I hit that post button, I'm thinking, where does that affect? Where can that halo effect reach? Mm-hmm. And if it's going to show any negativity towards myself, then that's obviously a perception people can have of not only my brand, but my employer. So really conscious of that. So National Finance Brokers Day, a huge positivity. So they're all supportive on me promoting that.
Yep.
Everything else that I put out there, they're supportive of.
Yep.
I don't touch on topics where our legal or our executives need to talk about. I know, listen, I know my place, and I'm not diminishing my value in the company, but I understand we have people employed to talk about that or write about that.
Yeah.
And it's their job to do that. I'm happy to engage on the content and support it from that mechanism, so it broadens the reach of the post, but I do that in an agreeable and a positive manner. Mm-hmm. So as well as understanding it, I've got really close contacts with our external marketing and legal departments now.
No doubt. No doubt.
If I'm sitting on the fence about something, 99% of the times I just leave it and don't do it. But if I'm thinking, listen, this is going to get some huge traction, it's going to have some benefit for all parties involved, I just shoot them over the quick email and say, guys, what do you think about this? And they're fantastic.
Okay.
There's been internal publications which I've been involved in the broker industry. They're all supportive all over. There's obviously those legal restrictions sometimes that needs to have a few words changed, but my employer's super supportive. I mean, just recently, Matt, I was invited to attend, I'll say my employer, so it's Suncorp, but they recently did a national roadshow called Synergy, where they brought all intermediaries companies together. So we had finance, wealth, and insurance. Mm-hmm. And they were an innovation in action session where the audience got to choose one of 8 guest speakers and go listen to them for 20 minutes. And then they had a choice of 3 within that hour. And my head of intermediaries had invited me along on the national roadshow to talk about personal branding and LinkedIn. So I got to do that recently in 5 capital cities across Australia in 4 weeks. So, I mean, if that doesn't show support for another passion outside of your normal BDM job, I don't know what does.
And that's the thing. I think, a lot of people, if you're listening to this, you can do this. You can figure it out. And there is a way that you can benefit both yourself and the corporate or the company or whoever you're working for. And they've clearly seen benefit in it and have have worked to find a way. Whereas a lot of times I hear, this can't be done, that can't be done, or legal won't let us. There's always a way. You just have to figure out what you can talk about and why. As you say, you stay in your lanes. You don't want to get into the high level political, commentary that is out there. You just stay where you are, stay with the people, engage with the people, and that serves and benefits you. You don't have to be the voice of Suncorp. You're your voice, and where that goes. So on that, I had a quick question. What do you think the future of LinkedIn looks like?
Ooh, I personally see it going down the video path.
Okay. Yeah.
So I see it in the sense, and I'm saying that in the sense that they've just actually changed the algorithm with the way videos actually get viewed across your follower base. But I'm saying that in the sense, I think LinkedIn will bring in a live streaming function, similar to we've got on other platforms.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be extremely critical to the longevity of that platform because of the way it's utilized for business, for that value add piece to help entrepreneurs get a leg up. But if you could imagine we're doing our podcast and we're doing it live and you're posting it out on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Insta Story, whichever one you want to hit, the amount of followers, like people like myself who spend 90% of their time on that platform in comparison to the other sites, and my other sites only have a couple of thousand followers, the reach is obviously going to be a lot more.
And there's a huge contingent, I know, I'm sure you would agree, a contingent of people that are comfortable to be on LinkedIn, but not necessarily comfortable to talk about themselves and or business on the other platforms, apart from, what are we doing with our mates and that type of thing. So I think, as you say, there is still quite a big marketplace of people, and they are the people that we need to deal with, in business, and they sit there. So, yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Live video, I think I definitely agree. Things like this type of podcast, it'd be very valuable for LinkedIn to make that happen on the platform. And I just see more engagement and community happening there as well, which is really interesting. And I think it's opening those doors and pulling those barriers down for those people who I just mentioned, who have been a little bit nervous about communicating and creating content and doing all these things, but they're a little more comfortable to play in LinkedIn because it just feels a little bit more professional and business-like.
And LinkedIn is realizing that. They're bringing the group functionality, well, that's getting a revamp and supposed to be being launched in the next couple of months. That'll shine a little bit more spotlight in that community and that collaboration factor. And if you want to hone in just in your industry, then groups is going to be a great way to do that, as it was previously. I've got a group on there with about 2,500 finance professionals where it sort of died a slow death over the last 2 years. But if you can revamp that back out to it, whether LinkedIn's combating the private groups on Facebook or not, regardless of that.
Well, groups are a massive thing on Facebook at this point. They're working really well. So, yeah, I'm sure they will try and bring that back. But it's interesting, isn't it? As I said, swings and roundabouts, goes up and down, and they keep adding features to go with where the market's ready for.
Correct.
So, quickly talk me through ubervation.
Okay. So, ubervation, we just hit a year in August, I should say. And it started off with I learned something new one week. And so it was a Friday afternoon. I grabbed the phone out and I go, I'll just do a quick short video about what I learned and I'll post it up. And a few people came back going, oh my God, I didn't know that. How cool was that? And I thought, maybe I should do this on a weekly basis. So I gave it a little bit more thought and I thought, well, what's a name? I want to bring not so much a disruptor to that inspirational, educational piece, but some people have called it that. Some people have called it, I'm bringing that educational piece, that motivational piece to people. So you could class that Uber as either bringing it to you or as a disruptor, whichever way you want to look at it. And I suppose the vation part of it is that end part of those three words, motivation, inspiration, education piece. So every Wednesday I put out a video and I identify one element, and it could be anything. This morning's, because we're talking, it is a Wednesday morning, I put out around what type of questions do you ask your children when you pick them up from school? Is it, how was your day? And are you going to get the, yeah, great, thanks, Dad. And there's the end of your conversation. So it's all about the quality of your conversation, is the quality of the answers that you get. So that comes out every Wednesday, and I've been doing that now for just over a year. And it's getting some great traction. A lot of people seem to be enjoying it from the comments I'm getting and the engagement we're getting. But again, if I can help one or two people through that video, and that's not the only video I do every week, but that's specifically under that ubervation umbrella, if I can help those people, Matt, then do you know what? I'll continue doing it. I don't care if it's just one person a week.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? I mean, you just have to be able to put content out and just not be that concerned by, not let the ego be too worried. And the funny thing about content, which I'm sure you've realized as well, yeah, sure, you might get some comments, but there's so many more other comments that happen in someone's mind. There's so, that you don't even realize someone has been consuming some of your content, and all of a sudden they'll say something to you and they've clearly consumed a lot of it. And that's the bit that we don't see. And it's just a positive thing, like, because clearly they've been impacted, but they didn't feel comfortable to comment, or didn't feel like they were worthy to comment. And these are genuine things that people feel. But when you're just willing to put it out there, and ask a question, raise an issue, provide a bit of knowledge, it's amazing how far it can go and how many people you can impact. And it's not a lot of work, right? It's a few minutes or whatever it looks like. It doesn't have to be professionally edited. It doesn't have to be all these things. You just got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. I always say to people, if you want to start with video content, just grab your phone. You don't have to spend any money. Just put yourself on a page, right? Yeah. On the virtual page, if you want to call it that. But be yourself. If people want something that's of a huge production value, they'll switch on the television. They're not going to go through social media. They want something real. They want something that they can engage with. They want something that's going to either pull at the heartstrings or on their intellectual mindset and go, yeah, I get it. I can do that. Yep. But going back on the return on investment, I think you hit the nail on the head as well. I go to numerous events where there's 200-300 people in the room, and during the networking, people come up to me and go, I actually saw that post last week, and they've never engaged in it.
Yeah.
And if they're giving you positive feedback, then that's just fuel to the fire to continue doing the time and the investment that you're spending across the platform, whichever you're using. But there was one perfect example, Matt, if it's okay to share.
Sure, yeah.
When I was doing the roadshow with my employer, I was having a chat with a lady there, and she goes, I use LinkedIn, but I put my business and company posts up and I get nothing for it. I might get a few likes here and there from people I know, and that's all I'm getting. And I said, okay, well, come and sit at my table during one of the 20-minute presentations, and then if you have any questions, we'll tackle them after the event. She came and she had to rush off, so she messaged me the next day. She's going, I really like the human-to-human approach and breaking down the egotistical wall that you talked about. And she did that. She goes, I'm really scared. I said, listen, just put it out. If you want to run it past me, shoot it over and we'll give you some feedback. She put it out there, and it was all about her journey on becoming a broker. And she goes, the next day she sent me a couple of screenshots on people that actually reached out to her directly. And that's okay in saying, I'm sure, but they were influential people in the industry. And she goes, oh my God, I didn't even know these people were looking at my stuff, let alone on the radar.
Yeah.
And I see her post consistently now. She posts probably every 3 or 4 days.
Yep.
And it's all about that human element and letting people into her business and how she operates and all about her purpose. So again, that for me goes, yeah, you know, if I'm spending 3 hours a day on LinkedIn and I'm getting feedback like that, I'm going to continue doing it.
And it can't do anything but provide positive ROI of that, plus where that leverages to, and it just continues, as you would know. You just keep building this wave where just opportunity just keeps moving with you, and the wave just keeps building and building and building. And that's where people they just need to start. They just need to give something a go and not have the expectation, because it's the ego that prevents us. And I try to get people to just press record on your phone and just talk to it. Watch it yourself. Don't even watch it, but don't even post it. Like, it doesn't matter. Take it first. If it's okay, then you can. You've just got to start getting in the habit of doing something. And I think that's the biggest barrier is people just they not understand what a new habit looks like if they're going to go to the gym. They understand what a new habit looks like if they're wanting to start to play chess, but they'll won't even pick up the phone once, and they'll just say, no, I can't do this. Well, of course you can't do this, right?
Great. And stop comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah.
God, the amount of people that go, that person does it better than me. Who cares?
No
one's you, right?
It's so true. Look, I saw it said recently, and I just think about say 3 to 5 people in a line, and let's say at the top end you're talking about sort of Tony Robbins and Oprah, and all the way down you've got different levels of people, and let's say different levels, some are influencers, and all the way down to just the general public. And the interesting point is that the general public aren't necessarily, or the average person isn't necessarily ready to go and hear from people that have put a lot of time and effort into understanding concepts. It's all of our jobs all the way along the chain, because we always have someone in front of us and we always have someone that's just right behind us and where we were yesterday. And it's all of our jobs to just continue to share, what we've learned and why to help the escalator keep flowing.
Right.
And that's life.
You never know what level or journey people are on, or what struggles or challenges they're facing.
Yeah.
So you're right, Matt. You need to give people the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
I think it's what it is. If you put that opportunity out, people will grab it. Not everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you're going to get people who sometimes don't like what you're putting out. But
of course.
But you don't have to believe on it. And you can. I hate the H word.
Yeah.
Right. I hate the word haters because I don't deal with them.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough that I haven't had to. I might have one or two over the last 5 years, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
That might be another ROI for you. I don't know. But I look at it in the sense that if you're putting out positivity, if you're there to support people, and there was a fantastic saying from one of my friends in the US. He goes, supports sometimes doesn't mean agreement, but it's just simply support.
Yeah.
I thought, mate, that sums it up perfectly. And if you can do that and you understand what that looks like, then just go and do it.
As you say, we don't know what challenges people are facing, and often you don't need to be going through the same challenge as someone for them to relate stories and feel better about what they're doing or have an idea of what that looks like. But so on that, I think failure is a really important key on our journey to success, and I'm curious to hear about what failure you've sort of dealt with in your professional career.
God, how much time do we have, Matt?
It depends how good the story is.
Well, I've got two.
We've got all the time in the world.
I've got two that I can share, which has probably been real life-changing failures for me. And the first one, if I look back on it now, we're going back 12 years ago. We went into a family business. My folks had a cafe for 25 years back then, and my brother and I wanted to take it over. The parents wanted to retire, and the only experience I had with actually running the cafe was working there during my school holidays.
Yeah.
But I was 25, 26 at the time, and I thought, what an opportunity. I can be a business owner at 25, can light the world on fire. I can work 2 days a week and get stuff to run it, and I knew everything. God, how wrong was I? You could imagine where this story's going, right? 3 years down the track, doors closed, business gone. 25-year-old business. Actually, the people that had it before my parents, I think, had it for about 18 years. So a 43-year-old business gone down the gurgler in 3 years.
Wow.
I've learned so much out of that, but if I pick out one thing, is never think you know everything. And that's extremely difficult. It's probably easier, I should say, for people coming into the world now, going into business, because it's easier to get the support. We didn't have social media back then. It was harder to reach out to people with knowledge to actually get that and go, how can I implement that into the business or whatever you're doing? So that was difficult, but it was all into the bubble thinking we knew best. And that was the first huge failure. So that was close the doors, continue with life. And that took, at that age, a real hit, either financially and family basis. So from a family aspect, I had to hit the reset button twice on life. That was, the business was the first one. The second one is when I went through divorce, and that was 6 years ago. So if you could imagine the first failure around that business, you hit that reset button, you pick yourself up, you walk out with a suitcase full of clothes after leaving a house that you built yourself 6 years ago. So you go, that's fine. You built yourself back up. I went back into financial services. I go, this is great. I'm worked up to a branch manager in the direct channel at that level. And then unfortunately, my ex-wife and I didn't see eye to eye at that stage, and we parted ways 6 years ago now. But learning to overcome that first business failure, the experience I actually took away from that into the personal. I don't call it a failure anymore, the personal one, right? I call that an experience, because I could then go through that journey, but I wasn't sitting in the corner or crying underneath the desk for a year, even though it was more emotional, particularly because we've got children involved. I've still got them. But I took it, and I took those experiences from the business failure going, how can I overcome this quicker,
Mm.
get back on my feet, build my life up, because it's not only me now, I've got 2 young girls that I need to look after.
Mm.
They need to overcome adversity in their lives. And if I'm not showing them how to do that through a split marriage, how are they going to get that? What's going to be normal in their lives? Is it going to be every married couple divorces after 15, 20 years? Or is a normal married couple you live with the mum and dad in one household for the rest of your life?
Mm.
So I'm always working and continuously building on the relationship that my ex-wife and I have, including her partner, so the children's stepdads. We have a stepdad, I should say. We have a great relationship, so we always talk. And the children are slowly coming to the realization that you can have blended families and you can overcome life's challenges.
Mm.
It doesn't need to always be split, or it doesn't always need to be what another family is doing or what their friends are doing. It's okay as long as you're living the life the way that you want to live it and that you're happy in doing that journey. So mate, those 2 huge, I'll call them life experiences, Matt, not failures, have got me to where I am today. So I'm extremely positive on life. All the value add, the engagement, the ubervation that I created probably all stems from that. If I really sat down and had a whole day to think about where it came from, that would probably be it.
Yeah. And it's a lot of both sides of both of those. I'm going to guess that communication was a big part. The funny thing, go back to the business example, like at the time compared to now, I think a lot of new business owners now don't realize the challenges that used to be in place even around finances, and how you wouldn't know your numbers until like another 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks. Sometimes, many contractors and smaller businesses wouldn't know their numbers until the end of the year. And we have this now. We have this live, amazing software that just pumps out immediate data. And I think what often goes wrong in businesses, in most of our challenges do stem from a level of communication, whether that's communication with people or with yourself. And it's more a lack thereof, or not wanting to own and understand situations, because there is always a path through everything. There is always a path. And I think where we go wrong is when we try and throw things under the rug for a period of time. And I can only assume that's what had happened with the business, is that you wanted it to be going well. You wanted to do it your way, and you sort of got to a point where you could have made other decisions quicker, but we all have egos and we get stubborn and we want to fight down a path. And often I see it obviously with relationships, and I think it's an interesting space too. And I think often people go into relationships like not having communicated about things, and it happens during and it happens after, and none of it's easy, for any of us. You have to work at it. And it's business relationship, personal relationship, whatever it is, you have to put some effort in. Like the situation you find yourself in now, like that is a really powerful statement, that you're building these relationships with the stepfather as well, etc. Because that's not a common, it's not a common theme that you hear, but that is truly putting the kids first and creating the situation for their lives that you want for them. And that comes through, no doubt, challenging communication.
It does. Listen, don't get me wrong. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? But and it wasn't during the actual divorce period in the first year. There was, we kept, I'm probably getting really personal here, Matt, but we kept things outside of the courts.
Yeah. And
we were at a period in the relationship where we could actually communicate effectively to get settlement happening and move forward with it. So we're lucky we have the children 50% of the time each, so which is fortunate, because if anybody's gone through a divorce that is listening, you understand, particularly if you have children, there's that inner guilt from automatically seeing the children 24/7 to maybe only seeing them every second day or every weekend, depending on your own circumstances. So that inner guilt takes a lot to overcome. And if anything took more inner strength for me to overcome, it was that somebody actually said that to me when I was going through it. They go, "How are you going?" And I'm going, "Yeah, I'm going okay. We're working through things." They go, "Have you got the guilt factor yet?" And I said, "No, I'm okay with us splitting up." They go, "No, I don't mean you and your ex-wife. I mean you and the kids."
Mm.
And it wasn't until about a week after they said that I went, shit. And I was in the room trying to sleep every night going, my God, what the hell's going on? Yeah. Have I made the right call? So, but it's a matter of realizing that and taking a step out of yourself, going, it's okay to feel like that, right? Because that's normal. You created these human beings which you love more than anything else in the world, and all you'd want to do is spend time with them, unless they're driving you absolutely mad like they do now as teenagers. But if from going into a different type of lifestyle, you need to make that work. And I'm fortunate now that I spend as much time as I can with my girls. I have a new partner now who absolutely adores the girls. So I look at the children and I always tell them, you are so lucky in life. Yeah, you may live in two separate households, but you've got a stepdad and a stepmom that look after you, that cook, clean, run you around, look after your mum and dad. So what's not there to be grateful in life for? If you're thinking mum and dad need to be together and we need to be yelling at each other every single day, is that a healthy lifestyle? And I'm stating the obvious here for people that have gone through this. But if you can get past all of that, and I understand sometimes you can't, but if you can get past it, and again, putting yourself out there, getting rid of your egotistical wall and going, sometimes it's not about me, right? Make it about the people around you. And it's amazing how your lifestyle changes. So I'm extremely happy with where I am now compared to where I was 6 years ago because of these changes. But it does take time and it does take that investment to work on, as with LinkedIn.
As with LinkedIn. And look, that's you said earlier on, and I have the same philosophy. There's no such thing as, I'm at work and then I'm at home. Or you have to find a way to balance it all together. You have to find purpose in what you do, in your day job as well. And likewise, you have to find purpose and spend all. But you've got to find a way to balance all of life. It's not around, this 40-hour work week, which is still a sort of loose guideline for our society, was something that was constructed in the Industrial Revolution for a reason, to maximize labor output from humans when we needed humans to output labor. Sure. Okay. But things have moved on. And we have the benefit of choice now, which is, I think, why we have so many struggling people, because it's more because we have more choice than because we have less choice. And you have to create that entire lifestyle. And I think so communication's in there, a bit of brand in there. It's all one and the same. We are individuals, and individuals operate in communities. And to get the most out of our life for ourselves, our family, our friends, everyone around it, we have to give, we have to help, we have to serve. And likewise, we will be supported, by that. But there's no switch on and off, and there's the blurring the lines is one of the best things I could ever say. If you don't feel like you have, find a way to blur those lines and not exactly know if this event that I'm at is work or not. That's a good place to be in, right? Because you realize that you're in a space where you're contributing, and you can enjoy yourself in the process.
Absolutely. If I just add on that one quickly, Matt, it's all about having that holistic approach to life.
Yeah.
So I may be doing this with you on a Wednesday during the day, but it doesn't mean that my BDM job diminishes because it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
The phone and the laptop doesn't go away. That goes away when I actually go to sleep.
Yeah.
But I work in a great team environment that we can bounce these things. If my colleague wants to go to the gym for an hour, wants to go see her young son at home for an hour and have lunch with the family, go do it. You need to be able to construct the lifestyle that works for not only you, but your family, your business colleagues, and your clients.
Yep.
And if you can get all of that into the one, then you're succeeding in life. And lastly, I always say social media is just like real life now, that people use social media, whichever platform, because they either want to be entertained, they want information, they want value add, and they want a sense of community and collaboration with people.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not real life, I don't know what is.
No, perfect. So I usually finish up on a question that I like to ask everyone, and I think I might know where yours will be going. But what's the one thing that you would recommend for people to do to amplify their business?
Oh, that's a good question, because so many things are running through my head. If you need to just get out and do it. And whether you're from a business brand or a personal brand, I think you need to take that leap of faith going, I've got something to add. I've got some knowledge to share. So go out and share it in any way, shape or form that you see fit. Everybody's got something to say. Stand on the mountaintop, yell it, be as clear and concise of your messaging on what you stand for and your purpose, and go and tell people. So don't be shy. Get out there. You've got so many platforms that you can do it. That doesn't actually cost you any money.
You can choose, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
You can choose which one aligns with you.
Absolutely.
Even better.
Go and do it. Yell out people. And I tell you, you do it consistently. You do it positively. You do it with the right sense of purpose. That halo effect will become a magnet for you, and people will start being drawn to you because people want to liaise with people they know, like, and trust. And through positivity and enlightenment, you'll definitely get that.
Fantastic. So, Dino, where can people find you?
On LinkedIn.
That's what I thought you would say. But so check him out. He'll be linked in the show notes. But I'm sure if you search Dino Pacella, you'll find him very quickly and easily on LinkedIn. He's got plenty of content there, and definitely worthy. Ubervation's another great thing to check out. I've only had a bit of a little look myself, but I really like the process, and I try and convince people to do these types of little shows and create habits. Okay, it's every Wednesday. Good. A habit is what works. So that's really cool that you're doing that, and all of a sudden it's a year, and that's what happens when you just put a bit of time and effort into something. But for those of you who don't know, Dino's obviously speaking at Get Amplified on October 30 in Perth. The killer lineup of speakers, and I can't wait for it to happen, mate. It's going to be an amazing event. But if anyone is keen to check out Dino and some other speakers, get to getamplified.events and secure your spot now. But thanks so much for coming on the show.
Right. Thanks for having me, Matt. It's an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Amplify Your Business podcast with me, Matt Hannam. And look, guys, I hope you liked it. If you really did, I'd love for you to share it with your friends or anyone you think might find it useful. And look, I hope to bring you some more amazing episodes and some more amazing guests. And until next time, I'm very grateful, very humbled. Thank you for listening.